welcome back to the Whatnauts Reactor Core number 69. Nice.
Wow.
Of course, this is the one that we react to a TV show that focuses on a young teenage girl, so that might not go over too well.
Right.
But still,
unfortunately.
Number 69, here we are. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa, how are you?
Hello. I'm good. It's been a long week at work already. It's been a long 3 days.
Wow.
But I am happy that Marvel is here for me to lift my spirits.
Indeed. We are here to react to episode 1 of Miss Marvel, the brand new show that is out on Disney Plus based off the comics of the same name. I read these comics recently, like 2-3 months ago. And I loved them a lot. They are fantastic. I had a blast. I read them with my girlfriend, and we have been stoked that the show is coming up here. But yeah, episode 1, Miss Marvel. Melissa, what did you think? What's your history with Miss Marvel?
I've been familiar with her as a concept. I haven't yet read any of her works. I would like to soon, perhaps in my own free time. But she's always seemed very charming, a very approachable, relatable character. I was happy she was out there, and I was very happy to get to meet her in the live action series. This was so much fun.
It was. I had a phenomenal time watching this. I had the biggest smile on my face. This was really good. I liked it a lot.
Very creative.
God, yeah. I think Iman Vellani, the actress that is playing her, is chef's kiss. Perfect for the role.
Yes.
I retweeted some clip that I saw of her on like the premiere red carpet thing. And I think they were talking about like which MCU actor would she fangirl the most if she met them, and she just had like the sweetest response, but it was in the like fangirl way that I would expect Miss Marvel to be like, oh my god, if I met Iron Man. And it was perfect. So yeah, I'm super excited to see where this series goes. Stylistically, I thought this was phenomenal. This would be up there in like the big jumps for like style that we've gotten in the MCU, or like big jumps in the sense like, hey, we've gotten away from the kind of formulaic MCU look, right? We had Thor Ragnarok, was a big jump in style. And then I'd even say Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was a pretty big jump too. And then we get this. And I love it. And I think people have been saying it a lot online that it reminds them of like Scott Pilgrim or Into the Spider-Verse and stuff like that. And yes, I think that nailed it. And I'm excited to see more. I want more already.
It reminds me a lot of the Mitchells versus the Machines. I think we've got a similar familial conflict here where we've got this young girl who's a huge nerd for something, and her parents just don't get it. They don't even know if it's bad. They're like, I don't understand you. I want to support you, but I don't get what your goal is. I don't get what you like about this thing.
Yeah.
And it's got the same, a similar, like, so many graphics popping up on the screen. I compared that movie to, they animated a whole movie and then just put stickers over it, like in a good way. And that's kind of how this show feels too.
Yeah. The studio that made Mitchell's vs. the Machines was the one that did Into the Spider-Verse. So yeah, very similar art aesthetic, design sensibilities, what have you. But yeah, they do some really fascinating stuff, from that like background graffiti that is changing as they're going through all the scenes too. I really loved that split shot where it focused on the teacher and her at the same time and then like split open. That was neat. I was like, ooh, that's cool. I hope they do more of that because I don't know how they did that. That was fun.
I love the visualization of that text conversation she has with Bruno where like Izzy's going upstairs to like the apartment that he lives over the convenience store. Every neon sign is like an emoji or a word in their conversation. And I love the beginning of it. We knew from the trailer that this was going to have sort of a multimedia, like fun graphical aesthetic to it. We knew that Miss Marvel, that Kamala was a big nerd and wrote like fanfic and doodles in her notebooks. I loved that video she makes at the beginning of the episode. I didn't know she was like, what are you talking about? You
I feel your like, pain, Kamala, but holy shit, that deserves so much more.
Right. And the guidance counselor's like, Kamala, what are you going to do with your life? You know, you got to think about college. You got to think about a career. And I'm like, she's already outstanding at video design. Like, that's it. The answer's right in front of her.
Stop motion, animation, storytelling. She could be a video producer. She could be all that stuff. Yeah, she already has her life figured out. She can
just keep doing that
on there. And this Avengers recap video is brought to you by Bombas Socks, right? Brought to you by MeUndies. She has all the ad revenue she needs to pay her rent there.
Speaking of ad reads, I love that Ant-Man has a podcast.
Yes.
And that is the record of all this interior superhero knowledge. We've been wondering, like, why do people know that Carol Danvers is Captain Marvel? How is that public knowledge? Scott shared everything. So Scott just collected all this gossip. I imagine how much of this went down at Tony Stark's memorial service. I think often of that scene and how much of an emotional climax it was, how emotionally heavy it was. But I wish so much that we got like an extra half hour of footage of just all of these people mingling for the first time outside of a battle. Who did Scott talk to? What did he learn? Who have been his guests?
War Machine is still telling his boom. You're looking for this story.
He tells it to every new person he knows. Everybody he meets, he's like, all right, there's a cyborg woman, Nebula, get over here. I gotta tell you the story. Bring your friends. Bring the little raccoon. You guys gotta learn.
Like, I can see him telling the story, whether it's by himself or with some co-host that is like interviewing him. That it, like, I can see him just wildly explaining stuff, even if it's not entirely accurate. Right? He's just explaining stuff because it was Civil War, I think, when he was just sitting there like the only one that was like super interested and fascinated with like the who's who of all of that stuff.
Right, yeah. I think when he gets out of the van and he sees Hawkeye, he's like, I know who you are.
Well, but there's that. It might be Infinity War then, or no?
Maybe an Endgame.
Yeah, something like that. There's one scene where they're like in some like meeting room, like trying to explain like, and then the dwarf elf person, and he's just like, there are dark elves? What? Amazing. Right?
Scott's having a great time. Scott has one of the lives that has been the most improved by being introduced to superhero nonsense.
It really has. God, just imagine the one where he brings on Louise. Where he's just God. Like...
Louise is there all the time.
He has to be. He has to be the producer. If he's not the producer of the podcast, oh my God.
I feel like Kurt is the producer and Louise is like the guest for episode 1 that never left. He's like me. He just slowly became a co-host at some point.
Somehow, some way. But yeah, that
was enough fantastic. About Scott. We can't let Scott steal the show. This is Kamala's time.
Indeed. So Yeah, she makes these like YouTube video recap stop motion animations of all these updates on or not necessarily updates, but like the story of the
Yeah.
Avengers, but in this like stop motion form. I think that's fantastic. She's super excited to go to Avengers Con.
Love it.
And she has her own cosplay that Bruno is making for her, her best friend. And God, just like the whole con thing. It was,
oh my gosh.
I had to stop and look at every single thing. they called Garut Mr. Tree.
Mr. Tree.
That would like there's a shirt with him on it and just says Mr. Tree.
That's the easiest name to remember. He makes sure you don't forget. I loved that I love that the con went back to Camp Lehigh. I love whenever we return there. I like that this one piece of property has existed in the MCU since like 1939. It's still there.
Got hit with a missile and then they turned it into like a convention center.
I would have loved to have seen like a Comic-Con how we recognize them from our lives, but I love that this felt more like a circus. This felt more like a fair.
It really did. Yeah, I loved it. I thought that whole thing was a blast. But we have to get into Kamala's powers and this like bangle that she has here, because this is one of the biggest changes to the character. In the comics, she has she is an inhuman, and so she gets hit by the Terrigen Mist and goes through Terrigenesis and then comes out on the opposite side with these embiggening powers, right? It's these kind of Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, like stretchy powers. And at the start, it actually kind of manifests in a more shape-shifting way. In the comics, when she like first goes out in public with her powers, she transforms into Carol, in what she looked like in the comics. And kind of one of the big arcs that she has to learn is that, hey, a brown girl from Jersey City can actually be a super hero. You don't need to be, you know, the white looking character to be a hero. But they changed this to this bangle, which I thought was super fascinating. Well, what did you think of the way her powers looked and all of that stuff?
They look rad. I love this like prismatic crystalline like indigo texture they have. They look very cool. And I like that it comes from this mysterious bangle that her grandma just sends her out of nowhere. I'm very curious to learn the grandma's story. If she knew something, if there was a reason why she's sending this to Kamala now. And it's in a box with a bunch of other odds and ends. Does anything else in that box also have significance?
Sure. Yeah. I think the interesting thing about this show is actually the mom and the way the mom responds to all of this and some of the things that she says. Because we get to see Kamala trying to get her driver's license and just completely slamming the gas and just immediately going backwards, which was hilarious. But in the car ride home, the mom says something interesting. She says, "This is my fault. This is my genetics."
Yeah,
which is interesting, and you might not really think much of it, like because she just continues on and says extra stuff, you know. But then when she sees that the grandma, I think the Nani is what they called her, that Nani has sent this box of seemingly just junk. But when she sees that band, she has this look of like, I know what that is. You know, you don't get to touch that. And then she does the swap where it's like, actually, this box will go to your brother. He can handle that stuff, and then you can come with me and do all of that. And then it's her mom that also first mentions the word cosmic. Now, part of that might just be her fascination with Captain Marvel in general, but there seems to be some kind of lineage. Maybe the grandma has powers. Maybe there's some Kree blood in them, that they are part Kree. I think that would be fascinating. I like that look, especially if that leads to like, hey, your ancestors had powers, and maybe your ancestors before them. And so, it does seem to have like that purple kind of toned thing that when she like first put on there does really look a lot like from Wakanda, the ancestral plane.
Yes.
Like stuff like that. And then when we saw Moon Knight, it looks a little bit like the Duat Afterlife, which was also tinted purple.
Purple skies. Afterlives, liminal spaces, all purple.
Yeah. So I'm hoping they go that route there. Do you think that she might have some Kree blood in her, or is it like actually the band that's giving her, or that is the powers?
Based on what the mom says, I think that does imply that maybe there is something that is physically passed along, not like a talisman that's passed along, but it is intrinsic to your body. Sure. It could be something genetic. Yeah. I'm excited to learn about the cosmic heritage and then the real world cultural heritage. I loved how much of the show was in a language I didn't know, how many subtitles there were, how much vocabulary there is I've never heard before. Yeah. I loved getting to visit an entirely different family than the family I grew up with. I loved getting to spend that time with them. I love the dad.
The dad was fantastic. Yeah. The last thing I will say on the powers is usually when you see a device like that, it is a power dampener, right? That like, you've had this thing since childhood. It means a lot to you. It's a necklace or it's a bracelet. You never take it off because it means so much. You're right. And then once they finally take it off, then their powers manifest. I'm wondering if it's the opposite, that she does have these like latent Kree powers, and it is a power enhancer, so to speak. Because she might only be part Kree. And so it is like, hey, let's boost that power there. But we shall see. But I did really like the father when he came in with the Hulk makeup on. Brilliant. That was great. I'm
so excited. And I think this is a very... Having her be a fan for the Avengers as real world heroes is also an interesting angle. It's not like if you're super into a fictional fandom and your parents are like, I have no idea what that is. What's a Pokemon? Do you catch how many of them? How many toys do I have to buy you? Like, if you're a big fan of the Avengers, everyone knows who they are. They may not be like a huge dork about it, but if they've saved the entire world, yes, even your like 50-year-old father knows who the Hulk is and thinks the Hulk is cool.
Imagine if like the presidents of the United States were like merchandised in the same way that the Avengers were. That'd be awful. But that in my mind, that's kind of like the equivalent.
Or it's like if there was some natural disaster and all these first responders rushed in, and then we made trading cards out of them. Man, Brian's my favorite. I'm gonna dress up like Brian.
Brian, the fireman. I mean, we do have the like fireman calendar things here, right? You know,
closest real world
equivalent. But yeah, the dad was fantastic. I love the family dynamic that they have going on there. Yeah, it is a culture that I'm not super familiar with. I like getting to see into a home like that and see what it's like for her and the challenges that she has to face and stuff like that, both at home and at school and just out and about and who knows what. But yeah, there's also no real villain of the show yet. We don't know what the like overarching threat is per se. We maybe have a tease of it at the end. There is an end credits scene here, so there might be a little bit in that. Do you have some more stuff that you want to shout out before we start diving into that?
I want to mention when they're taking the bus to Avengers Con, and that bus driver just like leaves her bike there. Like she's got her bike half in the door and just like closes the doors, pulls away. She's yelling at the driver. We never see the driver. Perhaps this is the big villain, the person who like won't let her take her bike. Yeah, just leave the bike on the road.
The villain and then is Jersey City.
And then she's like, do you think it'll still be there? And Bruno's like, in Jersey City? I would love if now that she has these superpowers, she's like, I'm going to make sure nobody's bike gets stolen again. I'm hoping that this is something she follows through on. Like, I don't want to live in a city where people are scared that if they leave their bike unlocked somewhere, someone will take their bike. No longer. Not on Kamala's watch.
You there, bike thief, halt. Yeah, that was interesting. It was also strange to me. I guess the bus system back when I used to live in Richmond, you put your they had like bike racks on the on the front of the bus. It was strange to me that they took the bikes in the bus with them. I was like, there's no room. Like where would you put
never
these things?
seen that.
I've
never seen that in person or in film.
Yeah, me neither. But I liked Bruno a lot. We did not get to see much of her other friend at school. I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but I know we'll get to see Nakia. Yeah, something like that. I know we'll get to see more of them as the show continues. I hope we get to see some more. But yeah, I think also that like just the next big like interesting, fascinating thing that really has me on the edge of my seat was that end credits. I guess like mid credits scene that we got here. We go back to the DODC, the Department of Damage Control, which we first saw in Spider-Man. And we get to see Agent Cleary, I believe is his name there.
I think so.
He was in No Way Home. He was the one interrogating Peter Parker, being like, why did you kill all those people? Where is he? And that was interesting. I have to be honest, I didn't recognize him at first.
Oh,
it wasn't until afterwards that I saw an Easter egg thing and I was just like, oh, okay. Yes. Now I remember him. Okay.
I recognized him, but I think maybe because I watched so many like trailer breakdown and theory videos leading up to No Way Home, like every minor actor,
Matt Murdock,
like their face is burned in my memory now.
Yeah, I gotcha. That's fair. But yeah, we see Damage Control. And when he sees this video of Kamala's powers manifesting, he's like, yeah, bring her in. But he has this concerned knowing look, like he recognizes her powers or that kind of power or something similar, right? And being a part of damage control, they certainly know who the Chitauri are. They
Mhm.
have certainly dealt with other things, I'm sure. Um, but the prevailing theory is that he might be a scroll.
Yes.
And this is, I guess, coming from the line in Spider-Man No Way Home when Peter mentions Nick Fury, and he's like, hey, no, Nick Fury has been off planet. And there's no real way to know that Nick Fury has been off planet unless
Mhm.
Nick Fury specifically told Damage Control, or he's one of the
Mm.
scrolls that Nick
Yeah.
Fury is working with, and that was just a slip of the tongue here, which I find that fascinating. It's like, okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense that he would know this stuff. And then if he is a scroll, he would recognize the Kree powers. That makes sense because the Kree and the scroll don't really like one another.
Mhm.
Interesting. Huh. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that, Melissa? Where do you think
I'm
that part of the show is going?
I'm also feeling Skrull. We haven't seen a Skrull since No Way Home. Well, WandaVision, very end of
Sure. Yep.
WandaVision.
Mhm.
I feel like if we were leading up to Secret Invasion, they got to give us like a Skrull a year, like very briefly, to make sure
some
like
more
we're
Skrulls.
tracking this pattern.
Yeah. Yeah. Secret Invasion is coming at the end of this year. Is that right? Or is it early next year?
I don't know. I know after She-Hulk is August, then we've got Werewolf by Night in October, and I'm not sure what's slated for next after that.
When does Secret Invasion come out? Let's see what Wikipedia says, if it says anything. Filming began in September 2021, concluded in late April. So,
Oh,
yeah, could be out the end of this year, early next
possible.
year. Release. Oh, let's see. Secret is expected to premiere on Disney Plus and will consist of six. No date. Lame.
Yeah, 6 episodes. All right.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I would think like end of the year, if not early next year, in like January, February ish.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we're gearing up towards. I think we need more scrolls, and I think that would make sense if he was a scroll, and that's how he knew this stuff. But yeah, I'm fascinated. I'm like, I just the visuals of this show, like this is one that I think I'm really mad that they're not all out right now. I want them now.
I want them once a week like a special treat.
I mean,
that format works for me.
Probably better, but I'm just selfish and greedy, and I want them all now because I want answers.
I wish we had the lengths ahead of time. I knew I had to like get up early today for something for work, but I thought, well, I also have to watch Ms. Marvel before I go to work. And then I listen to the breakdowns while I am at the office. So it's like, is this one like 39 minutes? Is it 54 minutes? If I could just get the running times ahead of time, I would be very happy.
I mean, I guess if you stay up late, you can look at it when it like actually first goes on, and then be like, okay,
I can't stay up till
bed,
midnight,
and then something like that. I don't know. Oh well. But yeah, I had a blast with this one. I'm excited to see where the rest of this show goes. Yeah, this was so much fun. I
very strong start.
Absolutely. But there you go. That is our reaction to episode 1 of Ms. Marvel. It looks like we will be doing this week in and week out for this show. So be on the lookout for our reactions in the coming weeks here with all of this. That being said, Melissa, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities.
And you can find me at Yo Kyle Springer. And if you guys want to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. So please go like, share, and subscribe. That would help us out a ton. And we will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.